Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
This is a funny thing to say. It's kind of endearing that we're not great at this topic because we're kind of good at social media and sales and other stuff. It's funny to be working on one that we're not great at. What is going on, Beastmode?
Well, not a whole lot. Happy New Year to you, Howie. What did you end up doing for the New Year's?
So happy New Year to you as well and family. We ended up going, so my kids didn't get any presents, and I mean like practically zero. They actually had nothing to open on Christmas, but we did kind of a budget-friendly trip to Disney World. And so it was a really good time with the kids, and we split a rental. A good way to go to Disney World, if you guys ever want to know this, is if you rent a house, they can be quite affordable. And what we do is we go with a family, and so we split the already affordable house. So it was really a neat time with that extended family and my kids and my wife. So yeah, thanks for asking. It was a good little New Year. What about you? Did you do anything on New Year?
I did. The nonprofit that I help, I want to say lead, but I'm not. I don't know if I'm the leader. I'm just somebody who's trying to do the most good.
You are the leader.
But clean up. We actually purchased our first RV New Year's Eve, and I was in the community in Dallas. Our nonprofit provides mobile services to the community: showers, mani-pedis, haircuts, things of that nature. And so we were giving showers on New Year's Eve in Dallas as fireworks were going off. So it was pretty incredible. But all of that leads us into, especially your story on sharing a house, on collaboration. And so what are we going to be talking about?
Yeah. Well, it's a new series called Collaborating to Get Work Done. It'll probably be 2 or 3 or 4 episodes, and it's an unusual one where we often speak about something that we're good at. This is one where we're really still emerging. I would actually say that I was bad at this until 3 years ago, and I'm still working on this. So collaboration to get work done. And tonight it's why collaborate and what does that look like is the title for tonight.
Yeah, collaboration is pretty key. I was just kind of thinking as we were getting ready to start recording this after our prep, and it's hard to get through any day without collaborating in some capacity, whether it's, if you're married, you're collaborating with a spouse. If you're at work, generally you're collaborating somewhere across the board. If you're out on vacation, there's always somewhere where you're having to give and take, or you're having to coexist. And so I'm hoping and I'm thinking that the avenues, the channels that this is going to go is going to be pretty vast. So excited for that.
Yeah, and we don't get preaching on this channel, but I will say that there's a couple of biblical examples. And if you guys if you guys get triggered by just mentioning the word Bible, then you really don't need to be, because this is not a conversion conversation we're having here. Although I would love it if you would follow Christ, because it will change your life. But no, what I'm about to comment on is just a couple of business principles that are in the Bible. One of them talks about how if one falls down, the other is able to help him, and that a threefold cord cannot easily be broken. So it talks about the strength of us together versus alone. So true. And then iron sharpens iron is another one that talks about collaboration and how, there's friction from that. But iron sharpens iron means we both get sharper from that, even though there's friction. And there's also a New Testament injunction that talks about in Hebrews that talks about do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together. There's something about that community and that collaboration where we really are better together. And humans have a need for community and a need for togetherness. So if we are operating without collaboration, we're missing something. And this is coming from a place of honesty, because this is my worst thing until 3 years ago, and it's still a work in progress.
I can't believe you forgot my favorite one. The two are better than one, for they have good return for their labor.
There you go. It's all over the place. I mean, if ancient, here's what you guys have to think about. If ancient scriptures,
Yes,
figure this sucker out, then we better learn from people who learned the hard way, and who documented some really good principles for us,
yeah.
to help us avoid that problem.
So I know that we got a story
Yeah.
to get into. Do we want to delve into the why and the what first, or
I kind of do. Yeah, I like how because in our bullets, we always bulletize this, guys, before the show. We actually forgot to bulletize the why and the what, and we have. So I'm glad you rescued us by starting to talk about the why and the what a little bit. So yeah, let's wrap a little bit more about that. I mean, the why we talked about a little bit as far as the support aspect, the fellowship aspect. I think another reason why is that I feel like I have a pretty good amount of experience in business and in whatever. And yet I'm always just like blown away when I'm talking to somebody and there's a wrinkle that I just never thought of. And that's kind of like the idea side of it, the feedback side of it. But then there's also, I could be wrong. I could be just missing out on something. And so if I fail to collaborate sometimes for good reasons, listen, none of you guys have to feel bad about that because I'm the worst collaborator. But if I fail to collaborate, then what if I'm wrong, right? I need someone to tell me I'm wrong. And so you can wrap a little bit more with that. But that's a couple of ideas on the why.
Yeah, I think the first why that comes to my mind is, again, kind of what I was sharing earlier, the necessity. I don't know what, actually I do. I don't know what if I'm healthy, spiritually, emotionally, I don't know what a healthy day looks like that I'm not collaborating. I know what unhealthy days are because I did that for a long time, just like
Are you saying, can I ask you a clarified question?
Yeah.
Are you saying that for you, it is kind of oxygen, like you do prefer to collaborate?
No, I mean, not, because sometimes I'm an Enneagram 8. And so sometimes whenever it's go time, if there's any bit of pushback, my initial response is to cut the fat and still go. Like, okay. I said go and you're not moving. So you're either, and so in my mind, it's, are you for me or against me? I'm going to make the decision and then I'm going to go without you. That's my go-to. But at a more basic level, kind of what I was getting at is there's a necessity to collaborate, all day long. You have to, when you go in the grocery store, you got to collaborate. When you're getting a coffee or whatever, you're collaborating all day long. And so that's where I'm talking about, to where that's kind of a why. Why do I need to consider it? Why do I need to work at it to get better? Because I don't know a day where I can't get by without it. Especially, again, like I was saying, if I'm healthy, if I'm spiritually, emotionally healthy, then I should be collaborating. Again, we just gave 3 pretty good examples out of scripture where it tells us we need to do things together. And again, it's even more scripture talks about it's not good for man to be alone, And so we're not, even if we're good working alone, there's still checks and balances. And then I guess kind of that, to piggyback up on what you're saying, is that blind spot checker. That's a huge why that I know I overlooked for a long time, is receiving that collaboration, about, hey, you're missing this. Did you know that?
I think there's many different kinds of people who kind of are a little bit reluctant to collaborate. I think highly capable people or highly experienced people, those kinds of people might be reluctant to collaborate because they don't realize the need. I think another kind of person who doesn't want to collaborate is someone who's carrying some baggage and some hurts. Obviously understandable, of course. What are some other kinds of profiles? Not that you have to have an answer, but do you have any other thoughts of people that might be a little reluctant to collaborate?
Well, a lot of leaders are reluctant to collaborate. And we kind of talked about this in our prep. And a lot of it is they're reluctant to collaborate. They want to pass down, but there's no up. And so that's not collaboration. If all you're doing is barking orders, you're not collaborating. And again, because they're afraid of negative feedback. They're afraid that if somebody else collaborates, then they're going to steal glory or steal thunder or steal, resources. And so I think that's a big deal, especially the way social media is right now. Mm-hmm. You want to have your face on it. You want to have your business on it. And that's a lot. I think that is really beating down collaboration efforts.
People want credit, for whatever reason. So sometimes there's some truly negative reasons for not collaboration. Another one of them is that for the introverts out there, it might be a little more work for you. I mean, I'm an introvert too, and it's a little bit more work for me to have someone over to my house even, or to do a podcast. It's a little bit of, you take from your reserves, introvert, to, public things. Even though you like I like people, but I do have that in my nature. Even though I do like people. So if you're an introvert, there might be a little bit of that. You might have to use discipline to collaborate a little bit more. And there's probably, you guys may have your own reasons. Yeah. And then some of the people that like to collaborate are probably extroverts, I would say. I would say truly secure people, very secure people, probably would like to collaborate, and or just very wise people who are not overly, I'll just leave it to that. Very wise people, and also extroverts, and also very secure people probably are collaborators, I would say. Maybe sometimes younger people who kind of have to because they don't know what to do, they might be a good candidate for natural collaboration.
Yeah. Man, I'm having a thought come up in my mind, and it's about blame. Okay. And I don't know if it's a positive or negative, or if it goes into the why, but it's been there the entire time on your last point. Okay. But when you're collaborating, there is the opportunity to blame shift, but so that's kind of the opposite of the credit. If I'm solo and it's successful, then I receive all the credit, but I also receive all the negative downfalls. So that may be a reason why people choose to collaborate. Something goes wrong, it's your fault. Okay.
Well, actually, and there's a positive upside to what you just said. So I had I would say I have, inactive and I have active mentors, and I have inactive mentors, but my inactive mentors, I may not have talked to them very much in the last 12 months, but they have this historical impact on me because they said things or whatever, you know what I mean? So one of my kind of a little bit more inactive mentors, Steve, said, two things that were pretty important. One of them was, you might have bad news, but bring me the transparent truth and we'll work it out together. Don't hide bad news from me. Share bad news with me. So it's kind of a little bit of a collaboration on the negative when something is negative. And then I think it's him also that said, if we win, let's win together. And if we lose, let's lose together. In other words, like, don't go try to do it yourself with no help and lose. If we're going to lose, let's at least try to help each other to win. And then if we lose together. And so there's that community and there's that fellowship and there's the shared learning of that. If we will force some collaboration, there's attacks. I mean, it takes more time and there's risk to it and there's negativity that sometimes happens out of, but we're just giving you guys the why collaborate in business and in your career, and what does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, it's very true. When When you're collaborating and everything's going well, then you share the credit and you lift each other up. When you're collaborating, things don't go well, you're there to pick each other up. If you're by yourself, you don't have that.
Yeah.
And I think we've all been there. We've all gone down and done an effort on our own, thinking we had the best interest, the best idea, the best whatever, and it didn't work. And we were the only ones there. And picking yourself up is a lot more difficult than it is to have somebody lend a hand. More time. There's a lot of energy on the back end if you fall down and you're by yourself versus the energy on the front end to collaborate. So that's the why. Why don't you jump into your story and then we'll talk about the what. We got about halfway
All
through
right.
this.
Yeah, no, it's great. I like it. So, and we'll get into more of the why and what as we go. But I do want to tell the story. So when I, early on in my career, I was essentially getting disappointed a lot by people. I was noticing that people were not following up. I was having to copy myself on emails because people weren't replying and responding. People weren't doing the work. And I have, my strength finders, my number one strength is responsibility. So I have a very emotional attachment to responsibility, a very mental attachment to it, psychological ownership. And so I found myself being the to-do list and the reminder system for other people. And so it became easier over time to kind of like not collaborate, right? So that's kind of one reason why I stopped collaborating earlier in my career. Another reason why is I would try to go collaborate with another department, whether that would be marketing or product or services or executive management or finance or whatever, sales operations, because I've always been in sales. And I would find that I would have a legitimate need, and I'm the closest to the actual situation because I'm working directly with the customer, my team and I were, and people would shut me down on something that I had to have or the customer had to have, and I had, sometimes no recourse. So basically there was a risk if I collaborated, I would be shut down and it would hurt our business. And so it was like this disincentive, it was a risk. There was very little I got out of collaborating, right? And there was people shutting us down and negativity and all kinds of stuff. So I stopped collaborating, for the most part, unless I had to. By the way, it doesn't mean I was unfriendly. I've always kind of been the friendly person, but I was just friendly and a lone wolf as well. Now, it doesn't mean my sales team wasn't getting supported. It just meant that I wasn't collaborating with other departments. But I was very, very active with my individual team and my team members. So that's the reason why. But in my last company, I started to collaborate, and I started by picking. And by the way, I didn't say one day, hey, I'm going to become a collaborator. I did not do that. But I started working with Brett in the last company that I worked for. He was now one of my best friends. And he could be a little bit, he could be critical, but he had a good heart. So you always knew, even if he was being critical, he's just trying to get the job done. Even if he had a bad day, you knew he had this good heart. You've met people like that in your life where you could trust them, even if occasionally you didn't agree or whatever. So I began to collaborate with him on a couple of projects. I began to collaborate with him on some sales deals, and I felt a level of support, and also I got value out of it because he was smart and he had experience that I didn't have, and so it kind of broke the ice for me. So I started to try to collaborate with other departments and working through that process to where I am today, where I'm more, I would call it, I'm still very individual developer of business, but I'm more open and try to be more collaborative, which is why this is top of mind right now in this series, because it's something I aspire to and Beastmode aspires to. So that's what I did. I picked one person. I didn't boil the ocean. I picked one person and,
Yeah.
and a couple of projects to go try to collaborate on.
Was Brett more of the lead of your collaboration efforts, or were you more of the lead?
So Brett ran the technical services team over at IntelliMagic. He's still there to this day. And because the services team was a service organization that worked with sales, they would do our demos and stuff, our software demos.
Yeah.
I was kind of it necessitated that we work together as department heads. Like I was over sales, he was over technical. And so he was, I would say the situation was kind of the initiator more than maybe he was. But he was open to it. I would go in there and we'd collaborate on ideas and problems, and even huge, really business impacting processes. And he was there with me every step of the way, and didn't always agree, but we agreed 80% of the time because we were both pretty close to the customer situation. And so, yeah, it was a great ice breaking for me. Also, it taught me that you can have disagreements and you can even be a little frustrated with the other person and still collaborate and work through that. And so that was nice too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I know that was a topic that I had mentioned earlier. Maybe this is where I'll drop the line that collaboration takes grace. It takes a lot of grace. And if you are going to collaborate, you guys got to be willing to understand that it's a lot of it's more work than if you did it by yourself. In some aspects of it, the mental work, the checking in, the follow-ups, the receiving input or feedback, the understanding that your ideas may not be the best. all that, it takes grace. It takes grace to operate in that environment. And so, I mean,
and he had grace, within the first 3 weeks of being on the job, my sales team made a mistake and messed something up. And I went into his office to apologize. And he literally, it's funny that you're using this wording here, because he goes, there's grace. And I was like, I have never heard that in business before. That's not really a business kind of term for a lot of people, but I think it's a really good description for what is needed. And so I agree with you. And I had someone give me grace. And then last January, let's see, actually it was January 2020. So just a year ago, his sales team blew it on a demo and cost me a deal that I had worked on for probably 4.5 months.
Come on, Brett.
Yeah. And he was, apologetic, and they tried to fix it and try to communicate with the customer, and we never got him back. But I gave them grace.
Yeah.
In fact, I went back to that sales engineer twice because I had forgot that I already said something nice to him to make him feel better. I actually went back to him. He goes, yeah, you already told me. I was like, oh, okay. But I let him off the hook 2 times to his staff member, to make sure that we were okay. Because I want to make sure I'm giving grace in that relationship as well.
Yeah. And so, and we spent a lot of time on why. I'm not even sure how much we're going to get to spend on what in this podcast. We've already talked a lot about what it is, what it looks like. And so we're going to be moving into the wins and the hows and the negative aspect of collaboration. But do you have any just kind of closing thoughts for why?
Yeah, I do. I think, what I've learned in my business career, and also working with a couple of nonprofits now, actually, is that the starting is what you have to do, is that you have to get started. So find something to collaborate on. If you don't find in your business career or in your ministry career, whatever you do, if you do find that you're not collaborating, then pick a topic and go ask for help. It's kind of like it drops people's guard if you're asking for help. You know what I mean? You're not saying you have all the answers. You're asking for help. It's kind of flattering to them as well. It's good. It's a good relationship builder with that person. So ask for help. And so I think that's something I would leave with people, is that number one, start your collaboration by just starting, try it, right? And number two, pick a person and ask for help on some topic. And, you'll get in the habit, you'll find, you'll have to work through the nuances of what works and what doesn't, but you have to start by starting.
Yeah. A good way in my mind, as I'm thinking, to start collaborating is to serve. I think we'll kind of get into my thoughts on the collaborator versus collaborated idea. But I think one of the best ways in business, out of business, if you want to learn and to grow your collaboration skills, just start serving. In business, give away your product, give away your service. I mean, you don't have to do the whole thing, but give a free trial. That'll make you collaborate. Give a 30-minute phone conversation. That'll make you collaborate with no sales at the end. I'm just giving you 30 minutes. Outside of business, find some way to serve, to volunteer, to give back. You'll be in a good collaboration time. So I think that's going to wrap up this first episode of our collaboration series. I'm excited for it. We're also excited because we are running YouTube live right now, so you can comment live as we're podcasting, and so we're excited for that and what 2021 is going to happen. But we look forward. Time,
if people want to join the YouTube live, first of all, they have to subscribe, and probably there's I think there's a notification. Yeah, there's a notification that you have to click like a bell. But what time of the week, what day and what time will that be happening?
Yeah, we always generally podcast Tuesdays, and it's towards the end of the day after 5 p.m. on Central Time. So if you're listening around the globe, you just got to tune into Central Time and look for after the working day. Generally, Howie and Beastmode will be chatting about something. I'm looking forward to that, getting some real-time thoughts as we're going. So
good stuff. Also, if you guys have any comments or questions or ideas for the show, anything you want us to cover, or just a personal question for us, or collaboration you want to try, whatever, email us at our show email, which is Howie and just the word A-N-D and Beastmode, Howie and Beastmode at gmail.com, and we check that occasionally, and we'll get back to you. And definitely feel free to hit us up with questions or whatever you want.
All right, Howie. I'll see you next week, my man.
See you guys.